Next, taking Waverly chalk paint in white, paint both sides of the box art. The outside ended up taking 3 coats and the inside took 2. Let the paint dry completely in between each coat. Painting the outside of the box is optional, as it will end up being the back and not visible. I prefer having a more finished looking piece. Also, feel free to use any paint color and type you wish. While the paint was drying, I finished cutting the craft sticks. I needed 10 in total. You may need more or less depending on the width of the stick that you use. Using a makeup sponge, I applied 1 coat of Waverly, wax, and antique to each craft stick. Next, I grabbed the arrow, which will become our house, and applied 1 coat of the wax, being sure to get the sides. Once the wax on the house has dried, take Waverly chalk paint in ivory and dry brush over it. Don't worry if you get a little heavy-handed with the paint. We will sand it down once the paint has had time to dry. You can use a sanding sponge like the one I use here, or a piece of sandpaper to do this. Grab 5 of the coffee stirrers. Take 2 and cut them the same size as the stained craft sticks. Cut the rounded end off of the other 3. Once you've done that, paint them all with white chalk paint, making sure to get the sides, and set them aside to dry. Alright, let's cut down this chicken wire. But first, be sure to use gloves and proper tools to make your cuts. I purchased this chicken wire at Michael's with a 40% off coupon. As an alternative, you may use a Dollar Tree wastebasket and still achieve a similar look. As you can see, I'm cutting the wire down to fit inside of the box art. Let's put this beauty together. Start by gluing the stained craft sticks to the inside of the box art, leaving a small space in between each one. Next, grab the wire and the coffee stirrers. Attach the wire like I'm showing you here. Then you want to take those coffee stirrers and glue them around the outside edge of the wire. That 5th stick will need to be cut down to fill in the gaps. This craft was inspired by the crafting duo Lizzie and Aaron. If you haven't checked them out, you can find them on Facebook as Lizzie and Aaron or on YouTube under Lizzie and Aaron Flawed to Perfection. Gather up your bow supplies. I cut 2 pieces of the first ribbon at 8 inches each and dovetailed the ends. The next ribbon, I cut 2 pieces just a little smaller than the first and dovetailed the ends. And for the third ribbon, I cut 2 pieces a little smaller than the second. I hope that makes sense. Then I bundled up a couple pieces of raffia. But if raffia is not your thing, feel free to leave it out. I slowed this next part down so you could see what I'm doing. So first what you want to do is crisscross your ribbons and stack them on top of each other. Next, you want to place a small piece of twine underneath that stack. If you're using raffia, go ahead and place that in the middle of your stack. Finally, fold it over onto itself and then pinch it together and use that piece of twine to tie it in the middle. Grab your house and the wreath charm of your choice. Glue the house in the middle of the box art. And then glue the wreath charm right on top of the house. Next, find a place for your bow and then glue it down. At the last second, I decided to add a button. The final step is to make a beaded hanger. Using 12 10mm beads and 6 12mm beads, I strung them on a piece of twine and then glued it to the back. And here you have it, a beautiful, easy, and affordable home decor piece made from a couple of Dollar Tree decor pieces and a few other supplies. Perfect to customize and personalize to make your own. Today I'm going to show you how I duped this farmhouse clock from Pier 1. With a little effort and time, you can have a beautiful decor piece that was inexpensive to make. Are you ready? Let's go! I began by carefully removing the clock movement from the clock and set it aside. I purchased this clock from Goodwill for $1.09, but you can purchase the movement itself at major craft stores, Walmart, or even online. I had this oval picture frame in my stash purchased from Goodwill for $1.09. I traced the oval onto the foam board 2 times, then traced it once on the poster board and cut them all out. If you don't have or can't find a frame, you can cut more foam board or cardboard until you have reached your desired thickness. From here, I used Aleene's tacky glue to glue my pieces together and set them aside to dry. Once dried, I took Waverly chalk paint in white and painted 2 coats, letting it dry in between each coat. After the paint dried, I took a ruler and a pencil to draw lines lengthwise down the face of the clock to create planks. Then, taking a fine-tipped paintbrush, I painted over the lines using Waverly chalk paint in Elephant. When the elephant paint dried, I took a chip brush and used mineral chalk paint to add some age to the face of the clock. Sand down some of the paint to soften the lines and the distressing. Next, I cut 4 strips of poster board at 1 1/8 inches to wrap around the outside of the clock and set them aside. While off camera, I decided to drill a hole in the middle of the clock to add the clock movement. I quickly discovered I needed to remove some of the layers of foam board from the middle, so I'm just demonstrating that process for you here. I did a Google search for a clock face that looked similar to my inspiration and printed the one I liked the best. To transfer, we are going old school. Color the back of the paper with a pencil and make sure you do it kind of heavy. Cut out the clock face and tape it to the clock base facing up. Then take a pencil or a pen and trace over what you are wanting to transfer. When I was done, I removed the original and took a Sharpie paint pen to go over the pencil marks that were left behind. Now to add the wording, I decided to use my Cricut machine. If you don't have one, you can use the same transfer method as before, stencils or stickers. If you have great handwriting, you can also freehand it. I brought back the 4 strips of poster board and the drawer pull. I'm going to paint them to look like galvanized metal. Using a makeup sponge, I took a medium gray color. I'm using chalk paint in steel and dab in an up and down random motion. It's important to be as random as possible, and we aren't looking for perfection or full coverage here. Yami from the Latina Next Door has a great in-depth tutorial on this paint technique. I'll link the video in the description box below. Next up is dark gray. I'm using folk art acrylic paint in gunmetal gray. Taking a new sponge, I'm just doing the same up and down random dabbing motion. For the last layer, I used Craft Smart acrylic paint in silver. This technique is very forgiving. You can layer colors until you are happy with the outcome. I also prepared one shower curtain ring to act as the bow of the clock. I used a wire cutter to cut the peg off as close as possible, then gave it the same galvanized paint technique. I'm now fitting the strips to go from 12 to 6 around the edge. Then I glued the strips together and placed them under a heavy book to dry. When the strips were good and dry, I hot glued them around the outside of the clock. Next, I needed to build the clock pendant. I took 3 wood craft cubes and glued them to the top. I used a scrap piece of poster board and marked out a rough shape that I'm going to use to cover the cubes. After that, I connect the lines and then I cut out 2 of those pieces. Then to fully encase the cubes, I took another scrap piece of poster board and measured out a straight line at 5/8 of an inch. I made 2 side pieces and 1 top piece. And this is what I ended up with. I painted those with the same galvanized paint technique and allowed them to dry. Once dried, I glued the pieces over the cubes. Next, I glued the shower curtain ring to the drawer pull. I recommend using a strong adhesive glue here so it doesn't fall apart on you later on down the road. Y'all, while waiting for the drawer pull and the shower curtain ring to set up, I got glue gun happy. I'm taking a moment to show you just how happy I got. It looks a hot mess right now, but I'm going to show you how I fix it. But first, I need to add a hanger to the back. You can use a sawtooth hanger, twine, or even a paper clip. Then I glued the knob onto the pendant and allowed that to set up. Now to fix my glue fiasco. With apple barrel paint and burnt umber and a makeup sponge, I'm going to make it look rusty. I'm just going to dab the paint all over that hot glue hot mess and all around the perimeter as well. The inspiration piece doesn't have this, but that's why it's called inspiration, right? If you don't get crazy with the glue gun and don't want to do this step, you can certainly skip it. Alright, the final step in making this clock is to add the clock movement, replace the arms, and put a battery in. Then it's time to hang this beauty in your space. I purchased this large egg at Walmart a few months ago and never got to use it. Today I'll be using the bottom half and this little bowl that comes in a 4-pack from Dollar Tree. I'll give both pieces a good wipe down with rubbing alcohol and adhere them together with a strong adhesive. Then I set them aside for the glue to set up. Next, I traced the opening of the egg on a piece of foam core to create a bottom. I used my box cutter to cut the foam core. You want to cut just inside the line so it will fit snugly inside, and make any adjustments needed. Next, taking old grocery bags, I stuffed the bottom of the egg. So does anyone else fold their bags up like this? The last bag I put some decorative rocks in to weigh it down and then sealed the bottom with hot glue. Next, I'll be using nautical rope from Dollar Tree to create a handle. I cut a 12-inch piece of rope and made a loop, then secured that loop with hot glue. Next, I used a strong adhesive to attach the rope to the top. I also used a couple dabs of hot glue for the instant hold. Next, I trimmed the rope a little bit, unraveled the ends, and then secured them to the side of the glass bowl with hot glue. Here you can see the handle is secured to the bowl. The next step is to wrap the nautical rope around the base to the top. I begin by unraveling the rope a little bit, then securing it to the base with hot glue. When wrapping the rope, I used hot glue all the way around the first 2 rows. After that, I glued every quarter turn until I almost reached the top. Have you guessed what we're making yet? If you guessed a bee skep, you are correct. At the end, I cut the rope at an angle and then glued it into the middle of the loop. To make the entrance, I used the top of a jar as a template to cut a piece of black felt. Next, I cut a piece of rope to go around the felt and glued the ends together. Then I glued the felt to the front of the skep, followed by the rope. Next, I'm going to make some bees, starting with these Dollar Tree eggs and beads. I'll start by cutting off a small portion of the rounded part of the egg. If you attempt this, please be careful as the egg could slip. Next, I'll take the second largest bead and glue it to the egg. I glued the bead so that the hole was up and down on the egg. To make the antenna, I cut a 3-inch piece of floral wire and bend it into a V shape. I place some glue in the hole of the bead and insert the wire, then add a little bit more hot glue. And this is how it should look. Next, I painted the entire bee with Waverly chalk paint and ink and set it aside to dry. Then I cut a 6-inch piece of floral wire to make the wings. I'm having a hard time explaining how I bent the wire, but hopefully you'll be able to understand by watching. Once I was done bending and twisting the wire, this is what I ended up with. And I did the same thing for the other side. Next, I covered the wire with the second ply of a napkin used in another project and applied Mod Podge to stiffen it. I ended up doing 2 coats on each side. Next, I came in and put small drops of glue on the end of the antennas and painted the wire black. For the legs, I cut 3 1.5-inch pieces of black pipe cleaner. Then I trimmed down the fur to make them a little thinner. Now taking Waverly chalk paint in maize, I painted the stripes on the bee. First I painted a rough line around the bee and then went back around doing short hair-like strokes. If you're enjoying this video and you haven't already, please give me a thumbs up as it really helps my channel to grow. Once the Mod Podge dried, I cut the excess napkin from around the wire. Then I gave it a little bend in preparation to attach to the bee. I also bent the pieces of pipe cleaner in half. Next I attach all the pieces with hot glue. Once the legs were firmly in place, I gave those a bend to look more natural. I really wanted to add sunflowers to the skep, but I didn't have any, but I did have these Gerber daisies from fall and decided to pull them apart to make them more proportionate to the skep. I also used leftover pieces of greenery as the original leaves had a more fall tone to them. Next, I made a bow out of some leftover buffalo plaid from Christmas time, Dollar Tree rustic farmhouse ribbon, and raffia. I didn't measure the fabric, but they look to be about 1.5 inches wide by 5 to 6 inches long. To make the bow, I laid the fabric down in an X formation. Next, I cut 2 5-inch pieces of striped ribbon and laid those on top of the fabric. Then I gathered up some pieces of raffia and laid those on top. I gathered all of the pieces together in the middle and tied them with a piece of twine. Finally, I gave the raffia a trim and fluffed the bow. Now to put it all together. First, I tied the bow to the handle. Truth be told, I love the bow so much I could have stopped there, but since I Frankensteined the flowers, I decided I had to use them. So I put 1 on the front and 2 on the back. And lastly, I added the bees. While applying the second bee, I decided I wanted to make the third one a floating bee. So I cut a 10-inch piece of floral wire and rolled up one end. I ended up trimming off 2 inches and rolled the other end. I glued the wire to the underside of the bee and let it set before gluing it onto the scap. And would you look at that? An absolutely adorable bee scap made from leftover Easter decor. I'll be showing you how I made this adorable and functional farmhouse plant wall hanger, which is easy and inexpensive to make. All right, let's get to it. Okay, I'm going to begin this DIY by building the frame, and these are 5-gallon paint sticks from Home Depot. You get 3 in a pack for 98 cents, so by the time I got done cutting, I used a whole pack. If you're wanting to, I did go ahead and pre-cut these because I do work with a handsaw and miter box, but if you're wanting to do these specific measurements, the inside edge of the short piece is 6 inches and it's at a 45, and for the inside of the longer piece it's at 12 inches. So 2 12 inches from the inside edge and 2 6-inch pieces from the inside edge for the shorter piece. So I'm going to be using some Gorilla Wood glue because this is more than likely going to be living outside, and with this Texas heat that I have here, I'm afraid that the hot glue might not hold it like I need it to hold. So I got this square here from Dollar Tree. I think that's what it's called, a square. And so I'm going to use that to help me keep these at the angle that they need to be while I get them glued. I'm going to use painter's tape to hold them together. While I move it around. I'll also be using these clamps here from Dollar Tree to help keep this thing a little bit more stabilized while I set it aside to dry. Next I have these K-cups here that I've obviously cleaned out and tried to remove all of the labeling. Fortunately, I was having a tough time getting that off, but I'm gonna be painting over it anyway. And I'm going to paint 4 of them. I'm not sure if I'm gonna use all 4 or just 3, because I have a thing with 3s. But that's a whole nother story. So I'm gonna go ahead and paint the inside of just a little ways down, and the full outside. And I'm actually using Waverly chalk paint in ivory. Okay, so the frame has had a chance to set up, so I went ahead and took off the tape and the clamps, but I did tape it back on the back just so I could differentiate the front from the back. So now I'm going to take the Waverly wax, excuse me, an antique, and I'm going to put a coat on there. So I'm going to set this to the side for it to kind of dry a little bit, and I'll be right back. So the frame is dry. So the next thing I'm going to do is layer on some different color paints here. The first one is this mineral Waverly chalk paint. And then this one is the ivory Waverly chalk paint. And I've already taken the time to go ahead and water these down. And I have my chip brush here. So I'm going to start doing a dry brush over them. And the main point of this is just to give the wood more of a weathered look. And if you get too much, just, you know, like I just did right now, I forgot to kind of dampen out my brush a little bit. I'm going to take this wipe here and kind of do that. And come back in. So you want to kind of do more of a dry brush technique where you do get the brush wet and then kind of tamp off some of the color. I'm going to move right into the ivory chalk paint that's watered down, and I didn't even rinse out my brush. I'm just going straight into that here. Alright, I am very pleased with how this turned out, so I'm going to set it aside to completely dry, and then once it is dry, I'm going to seal it with this varnish from Waverly. It's a matte varnish, and it's clear, and it is indoor and outdoor, supposed to be non-yellowing. So since this is likely going to be outside and I would like to preserve the wood, I will be putting 1 to 2 coats of this on before moving to the next step. The frame has had time to dry, and so now I'm going to attach some chicken wire. And this chicken wire I actually got from Michael's using a coupon. I believe it was $7.99. And I used a 40% off coupon at the time that I purchased it. If you don't have access to chicken wire, you don't want to purchase it, you can use Dollar Tree. This was actually part of a wastebasket that you can cut apart and use this as well for this project. To attach the chicken wire, I'll be using these quartz sticks that I picked up at Home Depot, and you get a pack of 30 for 98 cents. Well, I did, at least. I don't know what the price would be in your area. So I'm going to turn this around, and I do have a pre-cut piece of the chicken wire that I'm going to use. Let me bring that up here. And I'll be using a combination of hot glue and wood glue to get this stuck down. Again, this is something that I will potentially be keeping outside, so I don't want it to come apart with too much heat. If you don't plan on keeping it outside, if you do decide to recreate this, then you could just use hot glue. Another option is if you have like a staple gun, you could use a staple gun to do this as well. That's originally what I was going to use until I discovered that I didn't have staples short enough. I'm out of them. Now I'm going to add the hanger to it. I'm going to use twine and some scrap craft stick that I have here. So I'm just going to cut this. So earlier when I was waiting for the varnish to dry, I did go ahead and paint these letters. They come in the 26 pack from Dollar Tree, but unfortunately I forgot to hit record. I apologize. But all I did was I took the letters out that I needed, and I painted them with the elephant gray. The only thing was, I have plenty of packs of these letters, but I refused to open another one just for an O when I had like 4 Qs. So I just cut off these edges and sanded it down. So now I'm going to add it to the bottom here, and I do have a little tick mark that measures the halfway point from here to here. So I'm going to set these down, and again with the combination of hot glue and I don't know why I can never remember wood glue. I'm going to apply these to the bottom of the frame. Once I get this completely put together, what I'm going to do is go back around with the varnish and just give these a couple coats of the varnish, just the letters. Next I have these, the K-cups that I painted earlier. I actually ended up doing in between 3 and 4 coats on these, and then I also went ahead and did a couple coats of the varnish on that. I didn't varnish the inside of it, and I only did like 2 coats on the very inside of with the regular paint also. So I did decide that I'm going to go ahead and stick with 3. And these already have, I do plan to put live plants in these. So they already have the drainage hole here. But I'm going to kind of place them so that the drainage hole is on top, so that when I do water the little succulents that are going to go in here, hopefully it'll not wet the frame up too much. So I am going to go with 3, and I'm going to end up having them set up in this sort of configuration. So what I'm going to use initially to get them on here is this floral wire, and then I'm also going to wrap some twine around just for the decorative element of it. I apologize again, I thought I was recording and I wasn't. So essentially I am connecting this wire around the K-cup, and I've put a little hot glue here to kind of help me tack it in place, because it kept wanting to roll. So now what I'm going to do is twist it here in the back, and then I'm going to put another little dot of hot glue to help keep it up back here. So next I'm going to wrap some twine around it, and this will be a decorative element, but it'll also add another layer of security for the wire. Alright, so I'm going to attach the twine again to the second one. I was in the process of doing this one and I had a cough attack, so I apologize. Seems like I'm apologizing a lot in this video. Anyway, so I'm going to come back and I'm going to do this one. So I'm going to bring it up to the back, and I'm actually going to go around a couple of times. Also, if you don't have K-cups to do this, you can actually use the small flower pots that Dollar Tree carries. I think those would be light enough to go on here. I unfortunately don't have any, otherwise I might have used those, but it's good to upcycle. So I'm going to go ahead and tie this into a little bow. And then what I'm going to do is, instead of using hot glue, I'm going to get some strong adhesive and put it around in these areas to hold this here in place. And now I'm just going to do the last one. All right, what do you say we fill them? So let me get that stuff gathered up and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've gotten my supplies together to do a couple of succulents in these little pots here. And I was just going to show you the little tray that I have of some succulents that are propagating. I don't know if these are, I'm by no means an expert, I just love succulents. So I'll make that disclaimer right now, but these are some of the ones that I'm propagating at the moment, and these are the ones that, or at least 3 of them that I'll be putting in the pots today, and these are called hen and chick. So I thought the best way for you to be able to see what I'm doing is to kind of prop this up. So I'm going to use a couple of things here to kind of make sure that this isn't going to get away from me. And start out. So I have my soil mix here, and this is a cactus succulent soil. And I just picked this up at one of my local grocery stores. I'm just going to go ahead and spoon some of these in here. And I'm just using a random paintbrush to kind of brush this off a little bit. And lastly, I just have, these are actually some decorative stones from Dollar Tree. I did give them a rinse because this pack here usually has a lot of dust on them. So I did go ahead and rinse them and let them dry. That brush in there. Okay, so I'm just gonna lay a couple of around here, nothing too major. It's actually kind of big. So as of right now, this is complete. I do need to give them a little spritz. I do spritz them with the spray bottle. Depending on how hot it is out here, if the soil gets super duper dry, sometimes I can do it twice a day. If you're interested in growing succulents, there's one channel that I can think of right off the top of my head that gives good information. I'm sure that there's plenty out there, but one that I've been following for a while is called Succulents and Sunshine, and I'll be sure to put it down in the description box below if you're interested in finding out more information about succulents. So this is what I have here for my little propagations, and hopefully these babies will get nice, big, and strong and have to be moved to a different location and make room for some new babies. So I'm going to go ahead and get this set up so you can see what it looks like. So here it is on my back patio. I love how this came out, and I think it's absolutely adorable. I made this dragonfly embellishment to add some color. And I'll be sharing a video soon on how I made this. As promised in my farmhouse wall plant hanger video, I'm bringing you a tutorial on how I made this sweet dragonfly. If you'd like to learn how, just keep watching. Today I'm going to be showing you how I made this dragonfly. I don't know if you could tell in the last video, but I made them with clothespins. Now this wasn't my original idea. I did see this in one of the Facebook groups that I belong to. I did ask if there was a tutorial. I didn't get an answer on that, and I also did a couple of searches to see if I could find if there was a tutorial on how to do them, and I couldn't find anything, so I decided to do one myself. Now, if you happen to find one, you know, that's great. I'd be happy to, you know, give that person credit for, you know, their project. So I just wanted to go over a couple of things here. From Dollar Tree, you can get these little clothespins. They come in a pack of 50 like this, and that's what I used for this dragonfly here. They also have a medium size. Unfortunately, I have not seen these since last Christmas, so you know, I have maybe one, no, looks like I have about 4 of them left. I did use these to make snowflakes last December, but they have this size, so you can certainly use this size. Or what I'm going to be using today is the large ones, and they come in a pack of 36, and they come like this. These are actually in the craft area along with the medium-sized ones, and these ones are in the, like, where you find the fabric containers along with the clotheslines and different things like that. So that's where you can find the larger ones. So again, today I'm gonna be using the larger ones to do this. So the first thing you'll need to do is actually remove the metal piece. Remove the metal piece from the, sorry, it's not as difficult as I just made it look. But we just want to remove the metal piece, and I'm saving those. I don't have any idea what I'm going to do with those yet, but I feel like I shouldn't throw them away. So we're going to start with these, and I'm going to get prepared to show you how I put this together. I'll be using hot glue today. If you are going to be putting this outside, I would recommend using wood glue, or at least a combination of wood glue and hot glue. I know this one's going to stay inside, so, and just for time purposes, I'm going to go ahead and use hot glue. So it'll be just a moment and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've taken apart quite a few of the clothespins, and the easiest way for me to figure out how to do this was to break it down in sections. So we're going to start building the first section of this, and you just want to take 2 clothespins, and you're going to run a bead of glue down the center and stick those together. Okay. Next, you're going to take 2 other clothespins and turn them so they're like this, and glue them together like this. Okay. Okay, and you're going to want to do 4 like this. For the next portion, we're going to start with 4 clothespins. So you're going to need 8 pieces. Okay, so we're going to start off again by gluing the 2 together back to back. And we're going to take 2 more, and you want to take and glue them so the top of this one is just right about there where this one curves in. Okay, so you can place glue here and a little here. Okay, and you're going to do the same exact thing on the other side. I'm going to get 2 more, and we're going to glue them in this configuration here. So this time you're going to glue them below this curve. We're going to do the same exact thing on this side. And then the last one, we're going to do the same way. Right, you're going to glue right underneath this curve, so right here in this section. So you can put glue here and here. So you should have something that looks like this. And you're going to do 4 of these also. Okay, so for the next portion, we're going to put these bigger pieces together with the smaller pieces. So you want this one, this smaller one, to go up inside of this bigger one here, just like this. With these clothespins, you can see that this is going to be, with this size clothespins, you can see it's going to be quite a large piece. So we're going to take some glue. And get that right in there just like this. You don't want to squeeze the whole piece. You just want to kind of squeeze the actual area where the joint is, because once you start squeezing on different pieces, you can start popping that hot glue. So there we have, if you look here, so it's quite amazing the difference in between those tiny little clothespins versus the standard size clothespins. And we're going to do that to the other 6 pieces. To bring it down to 3, you just want them to fit up in this area like this. So now we have 2 and 2. So here's where you're going to want to make some decisions. We need to get the body together. So that. So you can either do 2 or you could do 3. And I think I like the 3 best. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these middle pieces together. Now, with this one here, to do the 3, we need to connect them all end to end. I found with this little one, I didn't feel like it was so stable, so I did reinforce it with a little pick that I have. So I think I'm going to do the same thing with this. If you don't have access to these, you could take like a skewer or cut a craft stick so it's thinner, and do it that way. So first what I'm going to do, put these up, is glue the ends. Okay, and then I'm going to, I think it'd be easier to just run the glue on the actual piece. Okay, so that's going to give that a little bit more stability rather than just having them glued at these tiny little points here. And the last step for the dragonfly assembly is to glue the wings on. So I'm going to use this divot point here to be where I glue them in. So first what I'm going to do is glue these units together. And then what I'm going to actually do is turn all of these pieces upside down and glue them on like this. And the reason why I did it like that was because we have this stick on here and I want this all to be level across the top. So if now I feel like I want to reinforce these points right here also, just because this is a heavier piece and it's just being held with hot glue. This one I didn't have to do that, just because it's smaller. So I'm gonna find some scrap pieces of craft stick in my scrap piece jar here. Well, it's not just scrap pieces, but I put my scrap pieces in here. All right. Let's see what we got here. Okay, I think that's gonna work out perfectly. So I'm gonna cut this one down. Alright, so it's filling pretty good. Probably don't want to sling it around. Again, I think it would be a lot stronger if you did it with wood glue. It'd be a lot more solid. With this one, what I did do was I put it together with hot glue, and then I went back around after and brushed on wood glue onto this on both sides to keep it all together. You can see it's pretty solid. I mean, I'm not gonna, be really rough with it, but it's pretty solid that I did that. So here's what this one's looking like. You can either attach a piece of twine here to the back so you can hang it, or across here, or I was thinking about for the smaller ones, you could put a magnet on the back. I did put a little clothespin on this one. I don't see why you couldn't do it with this one. Just be aware that this is kind of a heavier piece. This has got a little weight to it, so you have to be mindful of the way that you're going to actually hang or display this. But I think even leaning on a wall, this would look fantastic. So here is what this guy looks like, and it's complete. You just need to paint it up or stain it, or however you can paint it to match your specific decor that you use in your home. But it's complete. I was gonna leave it like that and not paint it, but I decided I needed to paint it because it just felt incomplete. So before I do that, what I want to say is I went back to especially some of these joints here where it was feeling a little bit weak, and I don't know if you can see, but I squeezed in some hot glue around these areas here to give it just a little bit more strength. I mean, it's not the prettiest thing, but I did go ahead and do it. And I also came in like on these sides here and squeezed in some more glue there, and I went along the edges of the extra little stick here and secured it some more. So I feel better about the connection now. So now that I've said that, the first thing I'm going to do is paint the entire thing with a layer of Waverly chalk paint in white on the front and on the back and the front. And then once that is dry, I will go ahead and start actually doing colors. So I'm going to go ahead and get this done. Okay, so for the most part, I've gotten this covered with the chalk paint, the white chalk paint. There are some little areas here that I did miss, but I don't mind that so much. So next, what I'm gonna do is paint the body of this dragonfly. And I did go on Google to look at colors of dragonflies, and I'm surprised at all the different, I probably shouldn't be, but I'm surprised at all the different colors of dragonflies that are out there. Whether they're real or not, I don't know, but I'll put the one here on the screen that I would like to kind of emulate. So the colors that I'm using to make this green-ish, pearly-ish, bluish color is the holiday green, and I just only did like a tiny, like 2 or 3 drops of this. It was mostly this color, Aqua by Craftsmart, and this pearl white, so it has like a pearly look to it. So I'm going to start off with the body and just go for it. And I'm also going to be using this black by Craftsmart. Probably going to end up needing more than that. And then also this navy. And I'm actually going to mix a little bit of the blue and navy together. Blue and black. Navy and black, sorry. All right, so I've done 2 coats of the colors on here, and the only thing that I'm not really feeling was just this color flat. So I mixed this color that I mixed with black, and what I'm gonna do, and I started just to see, and I think I like this. I'm gonna like this a lot better. So I am putting it around the perimeter of this little dragonfly body to kind of give it, I don't know, something else, because just that flat color by itself wasn't happening for me, and I almost went over it in just brown, but excuse me, I wanted to see if I could save it with this color, because this color really is pretty to me. It's just, I feel like it's just too flat. So I'm just touching it up here with another coat. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm sorry, I stopped talking. I'm gonna come back around down the middle with this color and then tap in some of the white. That's that. So when I come back, I will show you what this looks like displayed. I'll be showing you how I turn these 2 bottles and 1 jar into beautiful faux wood and cement vases. All right, let's get started. For this DIY, I'm going to be using this bottle from Dollar Tree, this jar that held maraschino cherries, and this Snapple bottle. Now, this is a hard plastic. I know in the past that they did glass. I'm not sure when the switch happened, but they are doing hard plastic now. But the good news is they still have the real facts in the lid. So to begin, I'll be using this air dry modeling clay, and I have a chunk here that I pulled out already to start getting warmed up. I would like to cover it over this top mouth area here to make it not look like a bottle that you drink out of. So I'm going to mold this clay around the mouth of this bottle and hopefully come up with something that looks pretty seamless. Satisfied with the way this is looking so far, so I'm gonna set it to the side and let it start setting up. So I went ahead and did both of these jars off camera because I didn't think that you needed to see me mold the clay any further, but I did try to get them all to the same level. They're not exact, but it's not gonna be perfect. So next, what I'm gonna do while this is still damp is take this tool here and just kind of poke some holes randomly around, just to give it some little imperfections, and then also maybe a couple little drag lines. So at this point, I've just got to wait and let them dry. The glass ones I could potentially put in the oven. I believe it's 200 degrees, don't quote me on that. I'll have to check to dry these out faster. Unfortunately, this one's plastic, so I will have to wait the entire wait time. And that's about 24 hours depending on the thickness. So once they're dry, I'll be back. Okay, it's the next day and all of these have had a chance to dry. So at this point, what I'm going to do is give them a light sanding in preparation for the next step. Okay, they've all been sanded. So the next thing that I'm going to do to this one here is use some of this lightweight spackling and smooth out some of the texture that's on this jar. I like the texture, it's just it's not gonna work for me for this project, so I'm gonna go ahead and smooth some of that over, and then once I'm done with that, I'm gonna set that aside to dry, and then we're gonna go to these here. Now while that other piece is drying, I'm going to come in with this Waverly chalk paint hazelnut and give just these top areas a coat. So the spackling has had a chance to dry on this one here, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and give it a sand to knock down these rough edges, and then I'm going to turn around and paint it with this hazelnut color here as well. Okay, next I'm going to come in with this Waverly wax, and it's in the antique color, and I'm going to do a dry brush technique, over the entire thing. But before I do that, I'm going to come into some of these areas here where I did the poke holes, and I did some actually off camera. I used this cuticle pusher and I stuck it down into the clay to make it kind of look like knot holes. And so I'm gonna go into those so that they're a deeper color first. And I do have a wipe on standby if I do need to spread out some of this color a little bit or to take some back off. I'd rather do it in layers than to do it in one thick layer and then it doesn't look that great. So that's what the next step is that I'm going to be doing here. And I will end up doing that on all 3 bottles. Okay, so all of the little holes and imperfections, some of these are actually cracks from when the clay was drying that I went ahead and just filled in also. But now what I'm going to do is take this chip brush and start doing the dry brushing technique to see if I can't get some what looks like wood graining in here. So you're going to dip your brush inside the color and then get off a lot of that color because we want to build the color up. We don't want to necessarily just start off gung-ho. It's easier to add than to remove. So we're just gonna go ahead and do the dry brush, some place heavier than others, and just take it around and keep going until you're satisfied with the way, or I'll keep going until I'm satisfied with the way that it looks. Next, I'm going to come in with the Waverly chalk paint in the color Mineral, and I'll be doing a dry brush over the wooded area that I did here earlier. And you just want to come in with your wipe and give it a little blend here. You don't want these lines to be so distinct. The jars have completely dried, and you want to make sure that they are completely dry before you move on to the next step. So what I have here is a mixture of lightweight spackle and Waverly chalk paint in Elephant and in Mineral. Now this mixture is about 3/4 of the spackle to about 1/4 of a mixture of both of these, and I'm trying to achieve cement, and I did find this recipe on Pinterest, and I'll have it linked below if you'd like to take a look. In the person's recipe, they actually used primer paint. Unfortunately I don't have that, so this was the next best thing. So you just mix those together thoroughly, and then we're gonna paint it on our bottles. So before I do that, I'm gonna go ahead and do this one with painter's tape. I have already taped off the other ones, but since we have mainly been focusing on this one, I decided to wait and do that for you here. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the tape on here and then apply our cement. Okay, so I also have this ring here to help me balance so that I can get the strokes evenly straight down. So I'm gonna get a paintbrush and I will begin. It's the next day and this is completely dried. I do have a couple of things to tell you about the process of doing this light spackling. After I did the first layer, I realized that I needed to pull the tape before this actually fully dried. So I pulled the tape and let it dry for a couple of hours, and when I came back around to when I looked on the inside, I could see some light shining through on the sides. So what I did was I mixed more, ran some more tape, and did a second layer on this. And again, removed the tape pretty much immediately so that it wasn't going to be stuck underneath the spackling. And that was just to fill in the holes and things. Now, this does have a lot of texture to it, which, how do I say, which, you know, if you like that, you like it, you know. I don't mind it per se, but it wasn't necessarily the vision that I had. So I will be sanding this down, starting with the coarser side of the sanding sponge, and then I will move over to the finer side of the sanding sponge. Also, I did mix a little bit of touch-up paint because I am noticing there are some areas that may need to be touched up. I don't necessarily want to mix another batch of the spackling, so I just mixed some I have pre-mixed some of the elephant and the mineral chalk paint together to kind of color match this. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and get this sanded down, and then we'll do any touch-ups that may be necessary. All right, and so you can see it's a lot smoother. It still does have some texture to it, but I like it much better like this. So again, this is the mixture of the mineral paint with a little bit of the elephant in there to kind of match the spackling mixture. And I'm just going to take this little paintbrush here and go over any areas that may show up when this is on display. So I'm just painting this little area here. Now, if you do end up with bigger holes, like I had before I did the second layer, I would say, which is why I did the second layer, but I would say to go ahead and mix more of the spackling paint mixture. This has had an opportunity to dry, and It's a little bit darker than the original color, and I couldn't figure out why at first, and then I realized that the spackle is white. So either you could try, if you have the holes, and just do like a little tester. You can just do mineral by itself and not mix the elephant in to make it darker, or you can lighten it. For the next step, what I did, because originally I was just going to do the mineral color watered down, and when I was realizing that this was so dark compared, I mixed it, the mineral Waverly chalk paint, with a little bit of this silver lining, which is a lighter silver color here. So at this point, I am going to go ahead and sponge this on here, just because concrete does have color variation, not this stark. So I'm going to go ahead and start sponging that on to try to lighten it up a little bit, just because it is sort of visible when it's sitting on the table or on the surface. You can kind of see the color there. So I'm just trying to correct that color a little bit, but also to add it all the way around on the piece, just to give it some subtle color variation. And do remember that with this, it is going to come on a little bit sheerer than it normally would, because I did water it down. So you can layer this on if it's not showing up against the darker color. Also, to not waste the little bit that I did mix, I went ahead and I went ahead and painted the full bottoms of them, just to give it a finished look, and also not to waste paint. So I'm just gonna go around and give this some, I did cut off some of the rough edges of the sponge here, just so it doesn't have the harsh lines. But I'm also going to, when I'm dabbing it, just kind of go around so it doesn't have any harsh lines. And I'm just going to do this in little random spots. So you can see here on this one, I had already started to sponge this on, so when I came back, you can see it showing up just a little bit more. You can see the difference in between here and here. Oh, let's turn it like this. In between here and here. So you can see the slight, just subtleness of the color there. So here's the three of them. So this one here for me is going to take one more layer of the watered down mineral and silver lining color, and then the last step for me is to go ahead and seal them, and I'll be using the Aleene's, I don't have it near me, I apologize. When I come back, I'll make sure to show you what I sealed it with, but I am going to seal them. From what I read on the link that I'm going to leave below where I got the information for the faux cement, she said it's not necessary to seal them, from what I'm understanding that I read, but I'm going to anyway. So I'll be back after I get these sealed. I've gone ahead and sealed the vases, and this is the sealer that I used. It's the Aleene's acrylic sealer, and it's in a matte finish. And so I just wanted to make sure that I shared that with you. Also, in the process of things, I completely and totally forgot to share with you that when I had started initially doing the painting on the spackling, I was using a paintbrush. I quickly found that it actually needed to be put on with a spatula. So I used one of these. It does come in a set of 3 from Dollar Tree. This is what it looks like. And it's usually where I see it is with like the office paper supplies. For some reason, I'm not sure why that they're there, but that's where they are. So that's usually where I find this 3-piece spatula set. So this is what they look like sealed, and I think they're absolutely stunning myself. I love the way that they came out. I love the texture of them. I am leaning towards, and I would like your opinions on this. You could let me know in the comments below. This is supposed to be a matte finish, and it does have a little shine to it, and I almost feel like I want to put like the glossy Mod Podge on it to see if I can bring out more of a shine, but I don't know. Tell me what you guys think. So next up, I'm going to show you what they look like styled. So I'll be back soon. Today I'll be showing you how I made this patriotic decor piece that can be hung or used just about anywhere. If you'd like to see how I made it, just keep watching. Okay, I have 2 of these signs, tag signs from Dollar Tree, and what I'm gonna do is cut one of them down to make it a little bit smaller than the one that's there. So I'm going to take 3 inches off the bottom. This ruler measures 3 inches wide. And then I'm also going to take 1 inch off of this. Can you see? Let me move it up here. I'm going to take 1 inch off of this side and this side, and this side and this side. I'm not going to take any off the top. So I'm just going to mark these off. And then once I'm done marking them, I'm going to cut them. And I did a short clip of, well, not a clip, but a short section of how I actually remove, excuse me, I'm sorry, how I remove the paper off of these, because that's something that I prefer to do. And if you're interested in how I do that, that'll be coming up here shortly. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut all of these areas here. Okay, so you're going to need your sign with the paper on it, a spray bottle, some kind of scraper tool, and paper towels. And the first thing I'm going to do is remove the hanger. Save that to the side, and then remove these stars. I like to do is just tear off as much of the paper as I can possibly get off. Next, I'm going to take the spray and just spray it down. Now, I'm doing this on top of craft paper. This was here from the last time I was crafting, and usually after I end a video, I take it off and put a new set if it's messed up like this. You can also use just a towel. If you have an old towel that you can donate to the cause, or if you don't mind using. And then we're gonna let this sit for a few moments. Okay, so once that is soaked, the water has soaked in for a few minutes, you can begin scraping. And you'll see here that the water hasn't all the way penetrated through down to the chipboard or MDF, whatever this material is, but you can still get some scraped off, and I'm doing this with a minimal amount of effort. Okay. Then I take another pass with the water. And then what I do is come in and soak up some of this extra water. If you have a towel down, you don't necessarily have to do this stuff. And there you have it. So you now have a clean board. You just need to let it dry out, and if you want to sand it, you can sand it, paint it, do whatever it is you're going to do next. I cut the board down, as you can see here, and I went ahead and sanded the edges and sanded the corners so that they're curved, so they look sort of like this one. Now next I'm going to go ahead and paint this one here, and I'm going to paint it with this ivory Waverly chalk paint. I'm going to go ahead and set that to the side and prepare for the next step. I found this piece of fabric in my stash, and so what I'm going to do is take some matte Mod Podge and apply it to this tag here. Now this fabric, I've had this for years and years. I imagine you could still find this if you are looking for it. I believe I did purchase this at Walmart, but I'm sure any fabric store would have this, and it's just a blue fabric with little white polka dots on it. So I'm going to go ahead and get this open and get some Mod Podge out on here and apply an even layer, and then apply the fabric. So I'm going to set this aside and let it dry. On this next step, I'm going to be using some scraps of fabric here that I have. These are also from my stash. This one is more recent. I purchased it around Christmas time at Hobby Lobby. And this one again, I believe, I've had this one for years, but it may be that I purchased it from Walmart or Joann fabric. And it's more of an off-white color, this one that the dots are. I don't know if you can, if the camera picks that up, which is why I chose to go ahead and go with the ivory on the back. And I'm also going to be using these pieces of lace that I have in my stash. These I purchased at a garage sale. So, but the first thing I need to do is to measure out where these stripes are going to be. So I need to find the center of this board here, and so I'm going to measure that out. It's almost 8 inches. So let's see here, 7, so that's 3.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 1 and 2, 3, and about the half. And I'm just doing a couple of tick marks there. And then what I'm going to do is from this center mark, I know that I want the stripes to be about as wide as this painter's tape. So I'm going to take a piece of this painter's tape and just mark the edge of it. And I'll show you here in just a moment what I'm doing. I don't know if you can see this. Let me get a darker pen. So I just marked the center point on this piece of tape so that I know that my tape is going to be the center point. So from here, what I'm going to do is just mark the edge of the tape. And this is just the easiest way for me to get it marked out evenly. So next, what I'm going to do to just make sure that these line up, excuse me, line up pretty well is go ahead and make just a little tick mark here at the top. And if you're not a measurer like I am, you know, and you just prefer to eyeball it, then by all means, go ahead and eyeball it. Okay, next I'm going to tack on the lace pieces because they are going to run over into the red parts, and I want the fabric to actually overlap the lace, not the other way around. So I'm going to go ahead and start cutting some strips. Now I'm going to come in and start applying the polka dot stripes. Next to come is the plaid fabric. Okay, and the last step I'm gonna do here is add this lace on top of the other lace. So that's what we have so far. Next, what I'm going to do to this is actually take the heat gun to it, just to kill off some of these spiders, these spider webs that are on here from the hot glue. And then I'm actually going to do a layer of Mod Podge over this to seal it in. I'm gonna do that off camera, however, so I'll be back with the next step. Next, I'm gonna come in with the Waverly wax in antique, and I have these stars here that were in my stash, and also 4 of the stars that came off of the original signs. And so I'm gonna do the antique wax on the stars, and then I'm gonna come back around with this burnt umber by Apple Barrel and kind of do some little rust on these stars over here. Both of these have had an opportunity to completely dry, so now at this point what I'm going to do is take my knife or my blade here and cut the edges off, and also cut the circles out here. So next I'm just going to take my raggedy little sanding block from Dollar Tree and just go along the edges here. There were some areas that I didn't get so close to the board, so I'm just going to clean up some of those areas here. And when you're doing this, you always want to, well, if you're going to do this, with any medium, whether it's paper or fabric, you want to brush down away from you or side to side. You never want to go in an upward motion, because if you go up, you could risk not so much ripping the fabric, but if it's paper, you could potentially rip the paper on the upward flow. So you just want to make sure you go in the downward. Finished the sanding, and I just wanted to say that I really liked how it was looking faded around the edges, so I went ahead and ran the sander on some of the other pieces of fabric. Didn't really make a difference on this lace portion, but you can see here where the fabric is sort of faded out on the edges. So the next thing I'm going to do is add the stars. But first I'm going to lay them out to make sure how I want them to be. Thumbs up. I think I like it like this. I'm just making sure all the grain lines are facing in the same direction. Okay, so I'm going to use a little bit of this quick grip strong adhesive and hot glue. I have a couple of strips left of this fabric, so I thought I could make a bow. And then I wanted to add raffia, and when I went up into my stash, I saw that I had this brown and this red also. The red I'm not too sure about. I just feel like it's a little bit off. And these are from the fall time. It came with these two, and I want to say it's an orange one as well. So I think I'm going to use these two and not the red this time to make the bow. So I'm going to figure out how to open this. All of a sudden I don't know how to tie a bow. Oh my goodness. This is what happens when you wear flip-flops all the time. Okay, let's do this. Okay, so I had to reduce the bunch a little bit as compared to the size of the bow, and I think that's going to work out better here. And so now I'm going to glue my little bow to the center of this. Set that to the side, and next I'm going to put these together. And then I'll be using this nautical rope. This piece that I just cut is about 31 inches. And I'm just going to take, excuse me, I'm just going to take this end here and loop it off like this. Sorry, I need to check to see if I like it the other way. And yes, I do. I like it better this way. I don't know. Let me trim this up a little bit. Just a little. And I want it to still be some longer, some shorter. I am going to put it up on the rope. There it is. Last thing I'm going to do here is just trim these up. So this I love this. I love how it came out. I think it's adorable. This can be just hung on a hook, on a nail, on your front door, on a wall. This is going to be staying inside the house for me. So I just really love how this came out. I don't know what else to say, but we'll see it displayed here in a little while. I'll be showing you how I made these farmhouse wall pockets that can be used anywhere inside or outside of your home. All right, let's get to it. To begin, I'll be using 2 packages of these 5-gallon paint sticks from Home Depot, and they carry 3 in each pack, so that's 6 of these total. And I will also be using, sorry, I don't have the packaging for this, but these are the 1-gallon paint stir sticks, and I'll be using 4 of these. Now, I did go ahead and pre-cut some of these because, again, I'm using a handsaw. So for 3 of the 5-gallon sticks, I cut them at 17 3/4 inches. And along with that, I cut 2 of the gallon stir sticks at 7 1/4. For the next set, or shelf number 2, I cut the 5-gallon, 3 of them, at 15 1/2. And to go with those, I'm a little bit off here. These were supposed to be 6 inches. Somehow I'm off 1/8 of an inch, but I cut 2 that are supposed to be at 6 inches. Now I will be working with the smaller set just because it is fitting into the frame a little bit better, but they're basically going to be exactly the same. With that said, forgot what I was going to say, so if it comes back to me, I will mention that. So next, what I need is to create the sides. Now I do have a plate here that's going to help with the curve, and I'm going to make a 6 by 6 square, and this is just a scrap piece of paper. I save all of the papers that I use when I do misprints, and use them for either scrap for taking notes or for things like this. So I'm going to make a 6 by 6 square, And just to help me get the rounded edge, again, this is just one of those 2 packs of plastic plates from Dollar Tree. And I'm gonna mark the center. And then I'm just gonna take this plate here and use it to help me get a curved edge here. Okay, and then next I'm going to cut it out. Next, what I have here is a scrap piece of foam pour board, and I'm going to trace our template here out onto this well, this piece 2 times, and then I have another piece for another 2 times, so total of 4 of these pieces here. And next I'm going to go ahead and cut these out. Now I'm going to take this plate and use it to help me cut this curve out. And I'm just going to continue until I have all 4 pieces cut out. All 4 pieces have been cut out, so next what I'm going to do is glue them together, or 2 pieces together, using this Gorilla Wood Glue. Now, you don't necessarily have to use wood glue. This is just what what my hand went on first. And I actually don't prefer to use hot glue for this step, just because sometimes for me it dries so quickly and then it's kind of bumpy. So this will give you a flatter result. So I'm just spreading out a bunch of glue here, and then I'm going to stick these pieces together so that they line up as best that they can. And then I'm going to take some masking tape and go around the edges of the foam board here. And I'm going to cut off the excess right along the edge. And so you should have something that looks kind of like this. And for the top, I'm going to do it a little bit different. I am going to come from the top and place this down first. Then I'm going to come over here and cut off the excess. Now, to get this to lay flat, I'm just going to clip it about, what is that? About 1/2 inch clips apart. And then I'm just going to smooth it down. And I've already done both of them here. Okay, so we're going to set these to the side, let that glue kind of set up a little bit. Next, I'm going to paint the paint stir sticks with a mixture that I made here of mineral Waverly chalk paint. This one is Folk Art Coffee Bean, and just a drop of this black Craft Smart acrylic paint. And then I added water to it to really water it down. I wanted kind of a brownish, grayish kind of look to it and more of a stain so the wood grain could come through, which is why I watered it down so much. So next, what I'm going to do is take a baby wipe to have on hand, and I'm going to be painting all sides of this, front, back, ends, everything. So I'm gonna put some of this paint on here, and then I'm just gonna take it right back off. Also, to prepare the wood, I did do just a very light sanding on the front sides of them, which is going to be the sides without the numbers. So I'm just going to do this and then set them aside to dry. So I'm going to do this to all of the pieces. Now, these are all of the small pieces. I do have the large pieces sitting off to the side. So I'm going to do them all at the same time so that they all have the same color and they sort of match here. So when I get this completed, I will be back. While the paint sticks are drying, I'm going to go ahead and start painting the sides here. And I will be using Waverly chalk paint in white, and I will be doing all sides. So while the sides are drying, I'm going to go ahead and put together the wooden pieces. I'm going to be using a combination of wood glue and hot glue. And for the smaller shelf, it needs to be six inches from top to bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of line those up right now. But I do need to find the center because I need to space these sidebars out evenly on here. And actually, I think what I'm gonna do is follow my rule of 3 and just go 3 inches in, excuse me, 3 inches in from each end. So I'm gonna glue this first one flush. And then the second one, I'm going to glue that flush as well. Okay, let me go ahead and remove the center one for now. And then I'm going to apply this middle one. I'm just going to eyeball it to the middle. And then I'm just going to secure them with a little bit more hot glue. So next I need to cut out the poster board that I'll be using for the outer portion of the shelf. And I have a piece of poster board here. I did have to cut it down, or cut some of the pieces already out of it because it was too big for this area here. So this is the last piece that I need for the smaller one, and I've used about 1 1/4 pieces of poster board at this point. So for this one, I'm gonna need it to be 15.5 inches wide, and then I'm going to need it at 8 1/4 tall. And I'm going to measure on this side 8 1/4 also. And then I'm just going to turn this slightly and connect the 2 lines. So that's what it should look like. And now what I'm going to do is cut it out using my blade here. Now you can use scissors to do this, but I'm going to use my blade because I feel like I'll get a cleaner line. So this is what you should have, and you'll need 2 of them. Now this poster board that I have has a print on it, but I don't plan to use it for this project. I just want the white side. So I'm gonna face them in towards each other. And but if you like this, I did get this at Michael's because for some reason when I went to Dollar Tree, they were completely cleared out of poster board at the store that I went to. Luckily there was a Michael's next door, so I just went ahead and got that from there. But they didn't have any white either, so I don't know what's going on with poster board, but there seems to be a shortage going around. So the next thing I'm going to do is glue them back to back. I'm just going to let this glue start to set up, and we'll move to the next. Next, I'll be gluing on the sides of the shelf here, and I'm going to be using a combination of wood glue and hot glue to do that. So I'm actually going to glue this so it's on the front of the wood slats. Rather than off to the side here. So I don't know if you can, yeah. I am so sorry. I thought I was still recording, but I wasn't. I put on the sides of the shelf here, and then what I did was I attached the bottom. I even was explaining how this got all wrecked like this. I accidentally ran it over with my chair. Anyway, so what I did was I took wood glue and ran a strip of it across the actual wood part. And then placed down the poster board. Then I came in and ran hot glue along the seam here to keep it in place. And then I did the same thing with the sides. I ran glue, the wood glue, and then I came in on the inside and ran another row of hot glue, and I made it all the way to where I'm gluing this portion before I realized I wasn't recording. So I'm going to put a little bit more glue, Again, I am so sorry. I'm not sure what happened. But I'm gonna put the wood glue here. And then I'm just going to make sure that these line up here on the side. And then I'm going to take the hot glue I think I'm going to take the hot glue. Let me get another stick here. And take the hot glue and run it along on the inside of the seam there. And if you notice here, because this poster board, I'm gonna have to, it's kind of bowed out, so I'm gonna take a skewer and glue the skewer right along the top lip. Now, you want to, this is 15.5 inches long, so I actually had to get the Cooking Concept skewers out. It comes with 12 pieces, and they're the really long ones. Hopefully, if you don't have them, you'll be able to find them. But you want to try to find the straightest one possible. Fortunately, mine were all pretty bent. But you want to find the straightest one that you possibly can for this next step. If you can't find the Cooking Concept ones, I know that Walmart has longer dowels that you could buy individually. I'm not sure of the cost, but that is an option for you. So I did cut this down already to the 15.5. I don't know if I said that. And I'm just gonna put a little hot glue here to make that stay. All right. So next, I'm going to take this skewer and come right along the edge of the poster board and glue that in place. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to come along here and glue it to the poster board. Okay, and you can see that that bow has been significantly corrected. Now, if you want to, you can put more glue across here, across the top, and I think I will here. You just kind of want to be careful, because once you put the hot glue and you start painting on it, it does become visible. But we have ways that we can kind of hide it. So it'll be just a moment. So I went ahead and painted the front of this and the skewer here with the Waverly white chalk paint. And the next thing I'm going to do is glue some thumbtacks to the back of this. I don't plan on putting anything too heavy in it, just because it is a poster board on the bottom. If you wanted to, I would suggest, if you wanted to put something heavier in it, I would suggest using more paint sticks across the bottom here on the inside, just to kind of reinforce it a little bit more. I just plan to put florals and different things, that lighter things in here. So what I'm going to do is just take these thumbtacks here and glue them in the center of where these brace pieces are. You could also use a stronger adhesive to help those have a longer staying power. So for the last step, I'm going to come in with some burnt umber, and I have a makeup sponge here that I've kind of cut up a little bit. And how I was talking earlier, once you paint over hot glue, sometimes if it's not the smoothest application, it does look not so great. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of disguise it a little bit, not all the way across, but do some areas that look like it's rusting out. So again, I'm sorry I didn't show the paint bottle, and I don't know what I did with it. Here it is. It is apple barrel, and it's the burnt umber. So I'm just going to take a little bit onto the sponge and just kind of dab it into the places that are kind of too ugly for words. So, and just make it look like this got a little wet and it started rusting out. Now I would have preferred to spray paint this, however the weather is not cooperating and it's been raining here and it's quite humid. So humidity and spray paint tend not to mix too well. So I'm also coming in where the sponge didn't get down into some of these spots and just covering it with a brush here. And here's what it's looking like so far. Now I do plan to keep these inside. I would say, since this is more of a paper product, if you're wanting to put it outside, definitely seal it with some kind of weatherproof sealer. Even you could use the dishwasher safe Mod Podge, since that tends to be more waterproof. It can go into the dishwasher, so I would definitely encourage you to do that if you do plan to put this in the elements. All right, so stay tuned to see how I style it. I'm so excited to share how I duped this farmhouse bicycle wall decor using only Dollar Tree items. And for your convenience, if you just want to buy it, there's a link for it in the description box below. To begin, you're going to need a couple of things. A piece of paper that's large enough to accommodate your circle or your half circle, a ruler, a pencil. I'm going to be using a Sharpie in this case so that you can see it, a push pin, and a piece of twine, thread, yarn, whatever you can get your hands on. Now what I need is a half of a 16-inch diameter circle. I think that's what I decided. Yes. And so the first thing I'm going to do is mark out a line here that's 16 inches. Is this pen working? Yeah. And then I'm going to mark the center point right here. Move the ruler out. Now I already took the time to tie the knot where I needed it for time purposes, but you want to tie it so that these are approximately 8 inches apart. From this point to the point of where your writing tool is going to land on the paper. So I'm going to go ahead and slide this in. Place my push pin on the midpoint here and the Sharpie 8 inches away. And you just want to try to keep it straight up and down. And this doesn't need to be perfect. This is basically a template. As you can see, mine got a little bit jiggly on the side because the twine caught up on my finger. I'm going to keep that open. So the next thing that I'm going to do is bring out this hula hoop. Now I'm kind of limited on space, which is why I have already taken it apart. But this is the fun hoop, and it is one of the smaller ones at 20.5 inches. I've taken off the decorative paper that was on it, and then I poured out the weights that were in there. So what I'm gonna do now is take my hula hoop and kind of just mold it around. And this doesn't have to be exact, and there may be an easier way to do it, but I'm not a math person, if I'm being completely honest. And so if you know of a better way to do it, by all means, do it how it would be easier for you. So now at this point, I'm just molding it and holding it around this circle here. And once I get it to where it kind of matches up, I'm going to hold this side steady and while releasing this side. And then I'm going to just place a mark here of where I'm going to cut it. So now I'm going to take out my board here to cut on, and I'm just gonna, here's my mark, so I'm going to cut this by this mark. You just want to be careful because this plastic is pretty hard. So what I've done here is I've taken my wire cutters and just nipped out a little area here. And then I took it and pushed that tab inside. I did that on both sides. So what I have here is a piece of wire that is about as long. It's about 18 inches, 16 inches, 18 inches long. And I've tied a loop on the end of it, twisted a loop, and I'm now going to turn this into a needle to fish this twine through. So I'm going to tie it on the end here, and then I'm going to stick this in there, and you'll notice that I have kinks in here too. I had to do that to accommodate the next step. So what I'm going to do is push this past that kink until I can see it coming out of the other side. So now I can untie the needle, and then what I'm going to do is actually tie this twine together. So next what I'm going to do is slide this so the knot is down at one end. Trim these off. So then what I'm going to do is place some hot glue on these knots here, and then slide this knot so it's hidden down inside of here. What I have here is a scrap piece of foam core, and what I'm going to do with it is take this bowl, also from Dollar Tree, and just trace a circle out with it, and then I will be cutting it in half. Now this is going to serve as the area where the spokes connect to the frame of the wheel. So this is what we have. Next I'll be preparing the tire here for the spokes around in this area. I am going to be using these skewers, and what I want to do is drill holes, and I have pre-marked the areas here where I want to drill the holes. Now I did not do any type of measurements. This is pretty much an eyeball situation. So I've prepared my drill, and I have a 1/8 drill bit, and so I'm going to be drilling just into this portion of it. I'm going to try my best not to come out through the back side. So the next thing I want to do with this is to go ahead and start getting the spokes assembled inside of the tire here. So I am going to need to cut these skewers down, because otherwise they'll be too long to accommodate this piece of foam, which isn't connected, it's just sitting here on the table. on the mat, excuse me. So what I'm going to be doing is kind of trimming these down, but I wanted to keep the pointy side so that that could help pierce through the foam and down into it a little ways. So at this point, I'm just measuring where it is that I need it to be, and then I'm gonna cut it, and then I'm gonna use a little bit of hot glue on the end and stick it into this hole. Now I'll be adding the foam core half circle that we cut a little bit earlier. I decided I am going to use both pieces. These were they're a little bit thick, so what I've done is I've kind of pinched them to compact the foam in the middle a little bit, and then I'm going to actually sandwich the pieces of, excuse me, excuse me, I'm so sorry, the pieces of skewer in between the two. So I did go ahead and make little tick marks as to where I need to glue the skewers down on here. So what I'm gonna do to begin is glue down the actual twine to the foam, and then glue down the skewers to where they need to be, and then glue this second piece on top. Okay. And that's what we have. Alright, so the next portion that we're going to be working on is the actual, I guess you would call it the body and the handlebars of the bicycle. And what I'm using here is this butterfly net. You can get it at the Dollar Tree. It's Backyard Travels. And it's actually the squarish looking round one. I know they have a round one, and then this one that's shaped like this. This is the one that I think would be best suited for this project. So first thing I'm going to do is remove the netting, and then remove this plastic stuff off of the handle here. Okay, so I've removed the net, and the next thing that I'm going to do is cut this wire here. I'm cutting it in half. I measured from here out here to the center, and I just have a little mark here, and I'm going to take my wire cutters and just cut it on that mark. And I'm a little weak sauce, if you haven't noticed yet. So let's break out these bigger ones. Now these cut on an angle, or supposed to cut on an angle or something, I don't know. But hopefully these got it. Okay. Okay. Next, I'm going to take this wire and hopefully just twist it so it kind of pokes out back out this way. This portion here was held together by this tape originally, and I didn't remove it, and I'm glad I didn't, because I thought it might just fall apart. And so it looks like what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to take it apart and put some glue in there. I am going to remove the tape now, and put some hot glue in there and then retape it. It's the next day, and what I have done is I had glued this with this quick grip beacon. I know I said I was going to use hot glue, but I decided I wanted to do something a little bit more sturdy. So I did use the quick grip along with some hot glue in this area, and then I rewrapped some masking tape here. So the next step that we're going to do is we're going to take some rollers here. I will be using these smaller ones. They do come, I wanted to show you that they do come in 2 sizes here. These are from Dollar Tree, and they are those foam rollers for the hair. So I thought this was a better match for the size of this portion here. So I'm going to set those to the side and get these opened up. Okay, so for these are really easy to take apart. You just want to slide it, the roller part down, and then remove this little plastic cap, and then just pull the other side out. And then you have this little wire here. So the idea is to, let me bring this around here. I apologize, my workspace is quite small. But you want to feed this around here and down. So now what I'm going to do is come back around with some hot glue and kind of secure these. So we don't have them sliding around too much. So I'm going to put some hot glue here. And just slide this down over it. I'm also going to come here and get these areas as well. Okay, so this is what you should have so far. Okay, so next I'm going to be using this jump rope. I've already cut the handles off of it. These are the parts that we're going to need from this. So I'm going to set the other piece to the side and bring this back in. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and attach these here and just push them up over those rollers. Okay. Now this is feeling just a little bit too flimsy for my liking. So I'm going to see about adding another piece in here to see if that'll help. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is take this roller and cut it like this. Well, we'll wait and see. So let's poke this in here. And then I'm going to double it over and see if that helps. Yes, and it feels a lot more sturdy. Okay, so I would like to take this back out. Looks like I'm going to demolish it here. Oh, come on. Okay, guess it's not going to come back out. So we'll just leave it in there like that, and I'll probably just, no, not probably, I will go ahead and just put a little bit of hot glue in there to kind of, you want to be careful because this is kind of disintegrating here because I keep touching it with the tip. Not so much the glue is making it melt, but when I touch it with the tip, it's sizzling up. Okay, so this is, I don't know what it's looking like on the inside. So I'm going to go ahead and do this for the other side. The next thing I want to do is to attach the wheel onto the actual bike structure, and I'm going to use a combination of things to get this on here. I'm going to be using some zip ties, also some of this quick grip glue and hot glue. So the first thing I'm going to do is start with the zip ties, and what I want to do is start by attaching them, or attaching them like this. And I'm not going to completely secure them down until I have my placement just right. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is set this aside to let the quick grip set up. I thought I was filming making the fender for the bicycle. Unfortunately, I did not hit record, so I'm just going to quickly go over the steps of what I did here. So what I did was take my ruler, basically, and use painter's tape and taped it to the bottle and traced the outline of it onto the bottle. Then I took my knife here and cut it just enough to get my scissors in to be able to cut the rest of it with the scissors. So now, to make this a little bit more sturdy, I'm going to cut another one to layer it up. So I'm going to sort of do the same thing where I tape it down and then cut it out. So I'm just going to tape it on the curve, and the reason why I use this bottle is because it has the slight curve this way, and it had the slight curve this way. So it has a more realistic appearance. Next thing I'm going to do here is take this super glue gel, and I'm going to put some dots of it on this, and stick these two together. Now I'm going to take my scissors and just shape this here so it's a little bit more rounded. Now, this is a little bit longer than what I needed it to be. So I needed some way to be able to attach it to the actual structure. So I did cut this a little bit longer to make sure that I would have enough. So I'm going to bend it at about the 6-inch. I should let this, I'm going to let this set up a little bit more. Some of the super glue just squeezed out of the sides. So it'll be just a moment. I'll let the glue set up a little bit more, and I guess through all the manipulation I was doing, it popped. It takes 24 hours for this super glue gel to cure. But I'm going to move on. And to attach this, I need to cut off some of this plastic. And I did cut it down a little bit more than what it was initially because it was just sitting up too high. So I cut this down to 3/4 of an inch here. And now I'm going to cut the sides down so that I can glue it to the body here and then use a zip tie to further secure it. So first thing I'm going to do is just mark out where I want to cut it down. And I think this is about center here. And I'm just doing a couple of guideline marks. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect. And I'm going to take my scissors and snip out this corner here, right here, and across this way. Let's test it. I'm going to loosely fit this zip tie on here. I'm just going to cut these edges in a little bit, just a little. All right. So I'm gonna give the super glue another try. Alright, so I'm just gonna let this do its thing. I have taken one of these Dollar Tree baskets. It had a handle on it, and I removed that and wriggled off the little triangle pieces that were right here. I know that they do make them without that now. However, I did not have that on hand, so I just used what I had. and this was actually black, and I spray painted it white. I also used one of these wind chimes here, and I just transformed it by painting it with white Waverly chalk paint, and the middle color is maize in the Waverly chalk paint as well. So this basket here is reminding me of a bike that I had when I was a little girl. And I know some of you may remember these, but they had the big white baskets on them with those very fake looking plastic flowers on it, and this just reminds me so much of that, but kind of a little bit more of an updated look to it. So I'm very happy with how this came out. So next we'll be applying that to the bike. Before I attach the basket, I wanted to let you know that I did go ahead and spray paint the bike, and I'm just trying to get it to where you can kind of see it here. I did spray paint the bike, and I used these colors here to do that. And what I did is basically I did it in layers, and it wasn't complete solid layers. I just went from one color to another color to another color until I was happy with the way it looked. The original piece was a rust color. Of course, I could not find an actual rust color of paint, so I mixed paints in order to achieve that. To raise up the basket, I did go ahead and add a tumbling tower block here, so that the basket would sit more upright than at a slant. So now what I'm gonna do is apply the basket using zip ties. Okay, so I put a zip tie here at the top, and the second one is right above where that block begins. And I've just locked these into place, and I feel like this is pretty sturdy on there. I mean, of course, you don't want to put a child in there. But yes, it'll hold light objects. And I'm going to cut the ends of these zip ties off. And what I'm also going to do is just do a little bit of hot glue on these cut ends. And that's not for security, it's more for safety. If you're working in there and your hand or something happens to graze on there, you don't get cut by the end of the zip tie where it was cut off at, because those can be pretty sharp. I have been cut with one before, so so the only thing left to do is I'm just going to come in with some touch-up paints. Of course, I'm not going to use spray paint. That's going to be a mess. So I'm just going to use some of the burnt umber. Most of this won't be too visible anyway. It's more of just for me. So you can choose to do that or not. But stick around and see how I decorate this and see it hung in all of its glory. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the like button and leave me a comment below. If you'd like to see more, subscribe and choose all notifications so you don't miss my next video. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, love, inspire, create. See you next time.